Hello, this is Neil McGurk with the Southwestern Rocky Mountains Division, and if you're watching this video, you are likely about to begin an assignment as a shelter manager on a disaster relief operation. We wanted to take a quick few minutes for a refresher briefing on some key items within shelter management. So during this briefing, we're going to be discussing our sheltering commitment, our philosophy, the importance of finding a way to get to yes when you're a sheltering manager, some key reminders about service animals, functional access needs, pets, cultural sensitivity, government VIP visits, and then connectivity with your supervisor. So our shelter commitment. Our commitment as shelter workers is to take care of the sheltering needs of the people affected by disasters. We're committed to providing shelter on an interim basis while our clients arrange for their recovery or until they're able to return home. We demonstrate this commitment in our sheltering philosophy. So our philosophy is that shelters must be a place of comfort and safety. They must be readily accessible to individuals affected by disasters. All shelter workers must be strong advocates for their clients, and clients must remain proactive participants in their recovery. Shelters must provide a safe and secure environment that accommodates the broadest range of needs in our community. And you, as the sheltering manager for that facility, for that shelter, you are ultimately responsible for ensuring that our philosophy and our commitment are upheld to the people that we are serving. So I first wanted to start by discussing the importance of getting to yes. Now, it's an expectation that our shelter managers, our shelter workers, and the entire workforce don't simply turn away people in the community for whatever they're requesting by simply saying no. We may not be personally able to do it within our mission, but we've got to find a way to connect them with other organizations so we can find a way to get to yes. So if someone comes in to a shelter trying to donate individual clothes, we could easily just say, no, we don't do that, and send them on their way, but that's the wrong answer. We should find a way to point them in the direction of some place where they can donate those items. And again, this does not mean necessarily that we're going to be able to take them, because oftentimes we aren't. But it means trying to find a partner, calling your supervisor, engaging that way to get that person who the goodness of their own heart pulled items together to donate for the needs of the clients. And so we want to make sure that when we give information to that person, it's not a no, it's a, hey, it may not be us, but here's an avenue for you to be able to provide this kind of service. So again, the expectation is that we're never, in any circumstance, turning away someone by saying no, that we find a way to say yes. And again, it does not necessarily mean that the Red Cross will personally do it, but we can try to find partners, we can try to find solutions, brainstorm ideas. This is where you get to be innovative to try to find those solutions. The other important thing on this is that you and your team are not expected to know everything. So if someone comes in wanting to donate those clothes or whatever it happens to be, you may not know right there physically where to send them. This is a time to call for assistance, call your supervisor, engage other people in this. Again, we do this, we make these phone calls, so we're not saying no to somebody and sending them away. So anytime someone comes in, and if you're unsure about how to act or unsure how to process that situation or deal with a request, either brainstorm the solution, try to engage local partners that happen to be there, and absolutely call your supervisor, call for assistance. We do this to ensure that we can find a way to get to yes and leave our clients, our partners, our community feeling like we're fully engaged in that operation and trying to find solutions for some of the challenges that they may be having. So we're first going to talk about some key reminders, and the first one being functional access needs and how we respond to that. So during registration, you as a shelter manager have a responsibility to make sure that your shelter workers are using the initial intake and assessment tool. And this is going to help them identify individuals who need additional assistance or accommodations to safely reside at the shelters. So based on this assessment, Disaster Health Services or Disaster Mental Health may determine that some individuals cannot be safely accommodated at the shelter. Now, if this occurs, Disaster Health Services or Disaster Mental Health will assist the individual in finding shelter at an appropriate facility. Disaster Health Services staff should also work with public health officials and relief operation leadership to accomplish an appropriate placement. So After disaster health services and or disaster mental health staff determine a person with disabilities or functional or access needs can be safely accommodated at a shelter, you as a shelter manager and your team should work with disaster health services and disaster mental health to make sure that the person is accommodated in a way that provides quality Red Cross services. So I'm going to give you some key reminders, especially in ensuring that we provide these quality services to individuals with functional access needs. So just want to provide some key reminders and guidelines on how to properly do that. The first one is be aware that disabilities manifest themselves in a variety of ways. These can be physical, sensory, cognitive, behavioral, mental health, or chronic conditions. Therefore, there's no such thing as a one-size-fits-all approach. Treat every person as an individual and address his or her needs accordingly. Next one is seek guidance from individuals with disabilities and or functional or access needs about the best way to accommodate them. Don't assume that you know the best way to accommodate them. Ask them, how can we best help you today? The individual is the best resource for information on how to assist. Also, don't assume that just because a person has a disability or functional or access needs that he or she will require assistance. Before you attempt to assist a person, ask the person if he or she would like help. Assess the availability of family members, friends, or healthcare agency personnel to provide assistance or special care or tasks that an individual cannot perform on their own, and then facilitate access to this assistance if possible. Ask shelter residents with durable medical equipment that requires power if they would like their cot near a power source. So again, what you're seeing here with sort of these guidelines is that we're just asking you to be open and to have conversations with people and really best assess and determine how best we can provide a quality Red Cross experience for those individuals. The other one is that remember to secure information regarding clients in need of additional services, whether medical or otherwise, to protect privacy and confidentiality. So again, make sure that we're treating their sensitive information discreetly and in a way that protects that information. And then also make sure that you're working with feeding within the shelter to accommodate any dietary needs of the shelter population, so low salt, low sugar, gluten-free meals, those types of things. The important thing here is that you are engaged and sensitive to the needs of these individuals and that we work diligently to ensure that we are providing and making reasonable accommodations for these needs. And if you ever have an issue where you have a need, you're unsure how to handle a situation, talk to disaster health services, talk to disaster mental health, talk to your supervisor. There's a wealth of information and resources here to support you in your support of individuals with functional access needs. The next topic here is service animals. Now, we have a very important policy on service animals is that they are absolutely allowed and accommodated in shelters. Unequivocally, we allow service animals in shelters. Service animals are not considered pets as they are trained to perform specific tasks for owners, and no certification or other documentation is necessary to establish that an animal is a service animal. Now, there are two questions that can help determine that an animal is a service animal. The first one being is the question that you can ask is this a service animal required because of a disability? Number two is what work or tasks has this animal been trained to perform? Those are the two questions that you can ask to help determine if the animal is a service animal. When an individual brings a service animal into a Red Cross shelter, the individual is responsible for the feeding, care, and supervision of that service animal. Shelter staff should work with an individual to arrange a relief area for the service animal and help provide disposable containers such as plastic bags for cleanup if that's needed. Shelter staff can also help connect these individuals with resources to assist them in meeting the needs of that service animal. So again, very important here. Never, never, never turn away a client with a service animal. We absolutely welcome clients with their service animals into Red Cross shelters. The next topic is pets. Again, service animals are not pets, but pets that are not, animals that are not service animals that are pets, we do not allow in Red Cross shelters. But this is important going back to the previous slide where we talked about finding a way to get to yes. So we recognize and have to ensure that we know that people are very connected to their pets and oftentimes won't, if they can't bring a pet in or find another place for a pet, they may not stay in the shelter. So what we have to do is we've got to work with partners, local officials to find a safe place for those pets to go. So again, never turn away someone from a shelter who is trying to also find a place for their pet. We need to find an answer for them. Again, the answer is not they can stay in the Red Cross shelter. What the answer is we need to work with partners, work with the community officials to find a safe place for that animal to reside while the person stays in the Red Cross shelter. And the next topic is cultural sensitivity. We need to make sure that and understand that as you approach a situation individually as a shelter manager, your cultural values and your cultural norms may be different from the people staying within the shelter. So we have to be sensitive to those different cultural norms, whether it's dietary requirements, whether it's religious requirements, those types of things, customs. We need to make sure that we are providing a safe and inclusive place for individuals of all cultures, all backgrounds. So some of this may mean that if you have individuals in your shelter that have certain cultural or religious requirements that require men and women to sleep separately in separate areas, then that's something that you may have to work out with the individuals that are staying in the shelter. So again, we can find ways to accommodate wide varieties of cultures, beliefs, backgrounds to ensure that everyone has a safe, supportive, and inclusive stay at a Red Cross shelter. Final one is government and VIP visits. Now, this is important. So oftentimes during disasters, you may have local elected officials, state, federal elected officials that want to come in and tour the shelter, meet with their constituents. The important thing here is that this is absolutely okay. And if you do have a government or a VIP visit that comes in, they want to talk to their constituents, we just need to work with the rest of the shelter team and the residents to make that facility available so they can come in, tour the facility, meet with their constituents, talk to their people. And the important thing also on this is to notify your supervisor that this visit is occurring. And oftentimes they're going to notify you in advance, but if a government official or a VIP comes to the shelter, this is something that again we need to work diligently to accommodate. So again, we're not turning anybody away from the shelter, but also notify your supervisor so they can engage with external relations and government operations to help close the loop and ensure communication throughout the operation is occurring regarding that special visit. I mentioned several times during this presentation that you as a shelter manager are not expected to have an answer for everything. But the expectation is that you will find a way to get to yes and you will not turn anybody away. And so for this reason, you need to make sure that you have the contact information for your supervisor readily available before you start your assignment. So don't walk into that shelter unless you know who to call for assistance, because there are going to be those unique situations that come up that you've never dealt with before that you're going to need to reach out and ask for assistance with. Also, sometimes there may be times or situations where health services or mental health may be providing virtual support to that shelter. So you want to make sure that you have their number, their 24-hour contact information for health services and mental health, so that if you have an issue with a client or some sort of other circumstance where you need to engage with health or mental health services, that you have access to that information 24/7. And finally, thank you for volunteering to be a shelter manager and do good work.